You are listening to the Voice of Bold Business Radio. I am your host, Jessica Dewell of Red Direction. Today, we are talking with Jennifer Goldman, the founder and owner of My Virtual COO, who has 25 years of experience helping businesses optimize the use of technology and people to improve productivity, profitability, and the client experience. And Eva Ignjatovic focuses on activities to keep companies relevant and on target with both data and behavioral analytics through business development, social media, and marketing. We're talking about the pursuit of clear priorities today. It's a very interesting conversation. And I ask both Jennifer and Eva this question to start. Once priorities are set, when is it okay to deviate from them to get to the intended outcome? And you'll hear their answers right after this.
Welcome to the Voice of Bold Business, the show that provides everything smart leaders need to evaluate situations, build relationships, and create solutions. Jessica Dewell candidly talks about the skills necessary to build tenacity and do more with less. And now, here's Jessica.
Hey, Eva, I want to know, once we set priorities, when is it okay to deviate from the decision that's been made to get to the intended outcome?
Well, answer A could be at all times, and answer B is never. And it all depends on how we define priorities and how do we define outcome. Because sometimes outcome is a priority and sometimes it's not. That's it.
I can't beat that. That was 20 seconds. I'm done.
Right. This is serious fun because all she did was answer with a riddle. It gives us a place to go. All right. Actually, do you guys know the movie The Labyrinth? Have you ever seen that? With David Bowie in it. He's the elf king. Okay. It reminds me, sometimes the way forward is actually the way back.
And that's what I was going to say.
Jennifer, I want to know, once priorities are set, when is it okay to deviate from them and still get to the intended outcome?
The quick answer is when they eliminate distractions. So I do believe in deviation, but that may be self-serving because just like the businesses we work with, we're going through an overhaul now too. My thought is you deviate when you're eliminating an option that is purposeful to get you to your outcome. Am I allowed to give an example?
Please. We want an example.
You know you need to, this is going to get into process now. You know you need to streamline your business to reduce the work because you need more time for business development. You need more time for talking to your clients and customers. And so the intended outcome obviously is reclaimed time. Let's say you're on the path and the way you're going to get there is you're going to look at your process and you're going to decide what to eliminate. Well, maybe some things that you can eliminate, you need technology for. You know, I'm big in that. I feel like looking at different technologies sometimes is a deviation. That is, you could go off on tangents. But the fact is, if you don't deviate to eliminate those ideas, you will constantly circle back to them and never get to your outcome. So I find businesses get distracted by revisiting those deviations instead of just vetting them and canceling them out.
Don't skimp on the possible outcomes because as soon as skimping is done or shortcuts are made or things are not evaluated, what ends up happening is, well, the grass is always greener. I got to go try that out. I got to go try that out. And then you're building a bad habit. That second guessing becomes, well, this isn't what I wanted. So we're basically iterating at the wrong point of the process.
The mouse going in the wheel.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, that happens a lot. I'm just going to give an example based on what Jennifer just said. We all know how people react, the outburst of technology and, you know, social media, and everything is new, and you get that feeling that you're going to miss something. And then you see that tool A works perfectly for brand A. Tool B works perfectly for brand B, or business, doesn't matter. And then you just say, oh, this what I have, it's not working well. Let me jump to that tool A and tool B. And then, of course, because your business is not same as business A and business B and brand A and brand B, you fail. And then instead of actually going back to the beginning and let's see where were I before I pushed that change that was unforced, actually, people go in the same loop. They go and see tool C and tool D and it goes on and on and on. And then after 2 years, they close the business.
What is your intention for heading in a path? They completely set up the outcome with the deviations, but yet if you don't deviate to then come back to the core, and I think that's the difference, right? You'll constantly deviate. Like we find with businesses, they don't take notes when they eliminate an idea as they're reaching for a goal. Write the notes so that you don't go back and re-look at something. Go back to the notes and they remind you in the 10 seconds, don't ever consider this again. And this is why.
You know what? You know that saying that people like to use, oh, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Oh, please leave that crap out. It is about the destination when it comes to business.
That's right.
And yeah, of course, the journey is important from the perspective of having it like seamless, not having so much bumps, as you might have them. We know the outcome. We know where we want to be.
Yep.
Don't be in that constant loop, in that Groundhog's Day repeats, with the same thing, so.
We're talking about habits. We're going to deviate from the process piece just a little bit because habits are a type of a process. They're this thing we do when we need to reclaim time. We put things on autopilot or we avoid them. We're going to leave avoidance aside and we're going to talk about what do we do? What do we fall back on in terms of these habits? Because in a business, sometimes it's just one person making a decision to move things forward. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes we have to go out to our teams or other people. And in my opinion, if we have nobody else yet, we still need to go find people to go talk to help make sure we can find the holes in what we're talking about. If we just do this autopilot, let's make a decision and go. And then at some point we know we can always try again. Okay, I love that. Yes, we can always try again if we don't like the outcome. However, getting to the outcome is also important. So if we're making this bad habit of getting on a wheel and always thinking the grass is greener and getting 70% or 85% or 90% done, and then, we got to go back to the drawing board because I just came up with this. That is a habit. That is a bad habit when it comes to problem solving and execution and implementation that shows up in our personal lives too. We're not talking about that today because we could be here for a week. But at work, when we're thinking about that, when you recognize, maybe it's not even when, how do you recognize that there might be this loop going on and this starting over before you've ever finished?
It's July, end of July. And if people are in the same place today as they were in July last year, oh, come on. And you don't even have to go that far. If you're in the same place now as if you were 3 months ago, something's wrong. I mean, you don't have to be genius to get to that. I think that the biggest problem is for people to admit that they are in the loop that does not work for them, for their business. And that's like a difficult part of the problem solving. I made a mistake. It's okay to make a mistake. But then again, I waste time. I waste money. I waste resources. It's not okay to make a mistake over and over and over again.
For sake of ego or not wanting to show you're vulnerable, this is why peer network of owners, you need to find one or two other owners. Let's say we're talking at ownership level, right? You have to find somebody else that you can talk to and be honest with, not think that they're judging you. I'll use myself as a great example. For many years, I always thought as an owner, never show your cards, never show the inside problems, never share that with other business owners because maybe they could be referral sources, maybe they could be raving fans. It didn't matter what, maybe they could be clients, right? And in the end, I realized that's a lonely existence and it actually perpetuates, enables that habit of sitting on the wheel by yourself. Two things that I always found is, one, write down what you want your outcome to be. If this income is that is that important to you, put it as a sticky note on your computer monitor that you can't avoid every day. And then have a couple peers and find somebody that you can trust. Let them help you get out of the habit of keeping everything close to chest. Because you're right. I think it's super easy to recognize that we're wasting time and money. It's extremely difficult to admit it to somebody else and say, you know what, I'm at a loss of how to get out of this wheel.
And sometimes those raving fans and those strategic partners or those referral sources are the exact thing to help, because they get to know us even better. They get to know our businesses even better. So there's the flip side of that. Wow. Okay. That's actually a pretty big deal. And I'm really glad that you shared that, Jennifer. I have been there as well. And for people who haven't been there yet, you will be at some point if you stay closed. And I think that's something that we really need to think about is, what does this concept of openness look like, and get out of our own way, because our opinions of what vulnerable looks like, or what close to the vest means in terms of not sharing looks like, because not everybody needs everything all the time, nor do they want it. But at the same point in time, they need to know enough to know where they fit in and they add value. And we need to know where people fit in and can add value. And if we're not talking about it, we won't know.
But maybe the deviation is having that conversation with someone else and saying, I don't know where to go next. Is that a good deviation? Why don't you comment on that? I mean, I think it's good as long as you don't constantly go down that path. Like you say, okay, I want to deviate, to kind of do a gut check of what direction I'm going in, how I'm approaching it. But again, remember, this is what I want my outcome to be.
If you have a priority, if you know where you want to be, if you know what is the goal, then you adapt based on that goal. You adapt your priorities based on that goal as well. And that's actually a question for everyone who is some kind of a leader or business owner or entrepreneur, solopreneur. It really doesn't matter. But the question is always the same. What is it that you want? If the answer practically goes like bouncing around the room, like, I would like this, and yeah, but this is also good. And then that's a problem, because you can have few goals at the same time, of course, but not all of them can be same priority.
Here's another place that my clients tend to be in, and I have also been in this place myself, and I'll use myself in this example. I see this over and over and over again with the companies that I work with, in the sense that they make a decision and they choose. They get down the path and they're like, oh, that other thing, that other initiative actually had to happen first. And then they bounce over, okay, we're getting down this path, and they've moved it around. And then it's like, oh, there's something else that we need to do. And they come back to that first initiative. And realistically, what ends up happening in that sense is that while we're adapting to go after what we want, we're also unclear about why we're doing these particular initiatives together right now, because maybe they're the same thing. And it's way more effort to try and run two separate things down a path to get there faster than it is to have taken a step back at first and go, okay, we have these two initiatives. Where do they overlap, if at all? And I know a lot of people do this with like content. They separate their content and they separate their customer service from each other a lot, right? What am I going to say to people to get clients to come in versus how am I going to support these people? Every way that we're supporting people are ways we set the expectation for the product that we're selling for the next people coming in. So if we keep them separate, we end up creating twice the work for ourselves and a lot of gaps between the two. So now we have communication problems, we have unsatisfied customers, we have less recurring business, whatever the case may be. There are a lot of different ways those symptoms show up. I'm thinking, is this a concept of agility? If we break it down, if we chunk it so small, we can be fast. And I don't think agile is always fast. And I think that's a misconception. What do you guys think?
I don't think that there is ever in anything one size fits all. That's like the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about agility. I think it's a popular term now, like a popular approach to business. It's like, I don't know, 3 years ago, everything was authentic. 2 years ago, everything is like influential. And 1 year ago, I don't know what was it 1 year ago, and now everything is agile or everything is digital transformation. And while I agree that those things are important in business, it's always a question, how is that important to my business? Maybe my business doesn't have to be agile, or it doesn't have to be agile in a way that other businesses are. If you ask people what is agility in your business, I don't know if they would be able to define that state.
And I would say that depends on the type of business owner they are too. Are they content with the size they are? When I have business owners that I'm working with that regardless of how many people they have around them, they're that center of their business and everything always relies on them. Those people don't understand what agility means. That's okay. It's totally okay, because in their world, they've got a different thing that they've got to tackle first around setting priorities. And for them, it's getting out of their own way and reducing the chance for burnout and just having 10 or 15 or 30 people now out of a job because I just quit. That's a horrible place to be when that realization occurs. Holy cow, I'm the center of everything. And all these people are now depending on me because I have created this thing that they always come to me for. Mm-hmm. That's no good. Even for people who want to be, I don't like this word, solopreneurs. They've got these teams around them. Well, they're dependent on each other. Virtual teams that are their own businesses. And in fact, I think those are a little more scary when it comes to business owners because there's no place for a single person to be except for the center. We need a core team to help us understand and stay clear and ask the question, is this important to my business? And I am not my business. And so what am I going to do to keep this business here tomorrow, to keep these relationships I have in place? Because my paying these vendors, whatever relationship that vendor relationship looks like, they depend on me as much as I depend on them. Yeah. And it's a symbiotic relationship. And I think whether we think we're small and agile because we can do whatever we want, whenever we want, and we really can't because we're not alone in a cave on the top of a mountain.
My impression of the word agile in this year is it's just all about fear. I see more businesses thinking they're agile by offering more different ways to work with their end clients and customers because they fear not attracting them. And what that's doing is making them hyper inefficient, hyper unprofitable. Their staff are not happy because they just don't know which way they're coming and going. The term is being used because, first of all, it's very short, easy to say, easy to spell, and it sounds attractive, but I think it stems from a fear. And again, I'm not talking about large, huge businesses. I'm talking about businesses, 15 less employees. Yeah. And also we know agile is a term for how to build process and workflow.
Exactly.
But it's not being used in a context.
Well, actually, I love the technical application of it. Right? Because it's a process. It is a process with a clear set of expectations. Right. We have to pay bills. We have to pay people. We have to pay ourselves. We have to do all of these things. We can't wait for the journey to end. No. So we have a different set of constraints there, yet at the same point in time, it needs to serve our business and we do need to have a structure. So I'm wondering this concept of showing up, playing it straight, and having a set of expectations where everybody is aware and buys in and agrees at the beginning of a project, at the beginning of a year, at the beginning of a quarter, whatever the case may be.
If you have that, you do go faster.
Yeah.
And have better outcome.
Yeah.
Interesting that you started with is agile faster. And I'm sure both of you could come up with a better cliche or analogy. If you plan today and implement tomorrow, your implementation should take very little time. Right. So following an agile process to allow you to deviate, but get back to the path toward the outcome. Mm-hmm.
My understanding and how I use problem solving is we know what we're doing. We know the steps we're going to take. And we know that whatever we're solving isn't going to just be home free. It's not like we can plan and implement and everything is taken care of. Boy, wouldn't that be awesome? And if anybody's doing that over and over and over again, I want to know you. Most of the time, something unexpected is going to show up. Usually it's life.
Yes.
That's how it goes.
It's how it goes. So what do we do in those situations, right? How do we approach those things? That, I think, I'm wondering if those are our deviations, that if we make a plan, we go toward it as a new problem pops up, as we recognize something that we didn't think of originally because we now have more information, we actually get to go, okay, we have a new problem to solve within our larger plan. So how does that affect? Can we go straight through? Do we have to go under? Do we go around? Do we find somebody else to helicopter us over it? I mean, who knows, right?
But that's the thing with process. We always have the road is really always under construction. It's constantly, and those deviations, I like to look at that from a perspective of river. It goes, it flows. And in its flow, it gets to a lot of deviations, stone here, wood there, like mud here. A lot of stuff are in it, deviates its, flow. What are we doing with deviations along our road? Can we use agile process? It is a process. It's not something that we can say, oh, we are agile business. No, business is not agile. Process is. And what happens along the process is how we, among other things, look at those deviations. Are we going to stand at every deviation and say, oh yeah, this is rock and it's great, I love its colors, and we should take it home and put it in, and then it goes, and then it's done. The whole process is just done, Or you can say, okay, this is a rock, let's just skip it. Okay, I want to pick it up and put it in my pocket, because I like it. But I'm certainly not going to, make a philosophy out of that bump in the road.
This might be a problem for another time. This might be something for us to consider down the road.
Or maybe it's something you write down and you sleep on it.
Yeah.
But you don't stop because it's there. Because the deviation is there. You're not just going to stop, paralyze, and, I don't know, do something crazy. Think about it. Think it through.
You are listening to The Voice of Bold Business, where I'm talking with Jennifer and Eva today about the pursuit of clear priorities. In the concept of this, we've already gone a lot of different places, right? We've gone from defining what our priorities are and what our outcomes actually are. We've talked about the purpose of the clear priority, this pursuit to eliminate distraction for whatever we're trying to get toward. Holy cow. We're talking a lot about process. We're talking about different kinds of process. We're talking about the experience, the feelings, the reactions to process. And as much as we might fear this concept of process, or we're like, oh, come on, I'm here to buck the process, which, by the way, a lot of us feel that way, because if there's a process, we kind of have agreed to what we're going to do. If we haven't agreed to what's going to happen, we feel like we're being told what to do. So this brings in this concept of communication. Part of having clear priorities, part of understanding that we're going to deviate from them around here and there and everywhere, comes down to the fact that we've got to not only communicate, we've got to understand, and we have to be able to repeat and ask questions to make sure other people understand and that we're all in a similar page. We could be butterflies all flying in the same direction. That would be awesome. But if we're just kind of all scattered everywhere, that's not going to help anybody out. So communication plays a role in this too. When you think about your priorities and being super clear, and Jennifer, you brought this up about being open and saying, hey, I don't know where to go from here, or I'm having this particular problem. Do those conversations help you clarify your own priorities and what the definition, the problem that needs to be defined actually is?
Conversations are always good, as long as they're constructive. Sometimes having a conversation is just that. You don't get any business value. You can get the support, you can get understanding at that moment. But in this concept, having priorities, we basically need to have a constructive communication. I'm just going to mention in all this word that you used, Jess, for the show, pursuit of priorities.
Yeah. Pursuit. Mm-hmm.
I think that the whole issue sometimes within the communication can come from that focus on constant pursuit. Like we are chasing something.
Instead of getting to it, you mean?
Yeah, instead of getting to it.
I was intentional about the title of the show because a lot of people they have priorities, but they never get to them. They have priorities, but they're never reaching that goal line. There's always more, which is why I have the word clear in there. Pursuit of clear priorities allows a whole bunch of other stuff to now be able to come to play. Betty Crocker made a cookie recipe, but she was not the first person to invent cookies in general. So you kind of have to go back down the food chain. And I'm thinking about Miss Betty Crocker and all of these recipes that she has. And realistically, we're talking about a recipe. We're talking about steps and skills and things that we already have, and we're putting them together in our own way for our own flavor, for our own workflows. So the clearer I am, the more I know what I want, the better I can understand if somebody is with me or not. It could be on either side of the table, decision maker to team, looking for the buy-in, the agreement, the willingness to do it, or coming from the other direction. Do I have enough information to understand where I'm at and be able to show up and do what I'm being asked to do what I'm asked to contribute to? What do you guys think about that?
Well, I have to go back to what Eva said about communication. If you don't have a clear goal that feels right in your gut and you're not able to articulate it to others, you will deviate forevermore. Mm-hmm. Because nobody can hold you accountable to your goal. They won't know you're deviating if they don't understand your clear goal. And as I'm listening to both of you, one of the thoughts is like when I get on a phone call with someone else, another owner, I always prepare an agenda in advance. And now lately, because I'm going through evolution of my own business, I always start to write down, what is my goal for the business chain? Like, where am I headed? What's my goal? So at least when I'm deviating on the conversation, I went in with something I wanted to get out of it and a reminder of what the ultimate goal is for the business. And that helps me deviate less. Because despite the fact I don't love the phone, I could gab.
I know, right?
Yeah, but again, it comes back as I'm talking, I realize my own goal is not clearly communicated outwardly. And I think that's where it starts. And I think that, Eva, you could probably talk to this. Some of us are not great communicators. We're passionate about what we're doing, but when you ask us to communicate in short form, no good. So therefore, our goals are unclear.
And that happens. I mean,
how do you solve that though? Like, who do you go to then? Do you talk to your peers and keep practicing articulating your goal until you hone it in? Because when you talk to somebody else, you hear yourself and go, oh, that's not right. Right? I mean, how do you solve that?
The way you said it about how you make agenda for every phone call, when you have a business phone call and you make an agenda, I think that's a really good example of a simple and effective process that works for you.
Yes.
I think that people are not afraid, but they are not keen to have process because they think that it has to be complicated. That process actually makes their lives more complicated, their work more complicated. That in truth, real process simplifies everything along the road. And that's another signal. If it makes you feel bad, if it's too complex, if you lose yourself in the process, that's a sign that something's wrong with the process. And we are not talking deviation anymore. We are talking about mistakes in process itself. If people work with someone and they have different types of people around, different types of professional on their team, I think that process can be honed in really well if everyone sits around that and says, okay, this is my process to do this, and this is mine. And when they combine, they can see intersections, and they can then do the fine-tuning and make it easy or easier for everyone.
And there's two things that come out of that. The first is being more efficient in whatever that is, gaining more time, having more whatever, whatever it needs to be. The second is it's setting a culture. It's setting a culture that says, hey, you know what? We can learn from each other. Hey, we always know there's something else here. And among other things, those are the two that come to mind, Eva, based off of what you just said. When we're not clear, we're not going to be able to talk to other people, which means our culture is as muddy as our priorities. Our culture can only help as much as we're clear. And our clarity is what's going to make our culture stronger or not. There's a quote which cracks me up here that I found as I was doing research. The quote is, "You cannot overestimate the unimportance of practically everything."
Oh, you need to read that again.
I know, right? It'll be like 3 times. Okay. It's Greg McCown. He says, "You cannot overestimate the unimportance of practically everything."
I mean, he's giving me a headache. Okay?
Yeah, that's a headache. Can we communicate?
So if I were to say it differently, okay, let me say it differently, because it did take me a little while here. The thing is, most stuff is unimportant.
Yes.
And we give the unimportant things too much weight.
Yes.
What are your thoughts about that?
I agree. There are a lot of things that are important to me and to my business, but that does not give me a right to diminish the importance those things have on other people's business. And I just want to say this out loud, and I hope Jennifer agrees with me. I have to share this or I'll die. You know, that quote, it's a good example how people like to complicate things.
Yes, I was going to go there. You can totally take it.
I really don't know who the guy is, and I don't care, you know, in terms of it can be a mastermind or a guru or a super social media ninja. I really don't care. But he complicated that thing because he wanted to sound important.
Yeah.
That's something that being efficient is not all about. So he's actually an example of how processes and egos can combine in a bad way.
I concur. I completely 100% back you on that. Without
The fact
question.
I had to repeat it 3 times would have been the first clue. So anybody that's listening, if you're asked, you're like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Just move on. Just move on.
I was going to say it differently or let it go. Because simple matters. How do you guys incorporate simplicity when you're goal setting and going through your processes to, I mean, just to make life easier? It's hard enough as it is. We don't need to work harder at that.
I bounce it off of others, and if they don't understand it, I know it's not simple enough. Mm-hmm. And if I can't write it, I'm not a great writer. And if I can't write it, I know it's not simple enough either. But then lately I've realized I'm not getting to the core. I'm not confident enough sometimes as an owner to say, this is the goal, flat out. It's like redoing a website and you got to get your message down to 5 words. Painful reality, but it's the best thing ever. Mm-hmm. Best thing ever. I don't know, Eva, how do you do it?
But the point is to make it simple for others. Most of the time, we don't want to admit. We say it in a simple way, but sometimes people need more to understand that simple thought because they lack certain data around that simple thought. So it's always a balance. You need to take in the context, and Jennifer already mentioned it. You can't go out there without a context explaining anything. The thing with simplicity is that it's not easy. Anyone can write a blog post of, 1,500 words. Anyone. But can you put the essence of those 1,500 words in, 500 words?
Yeah.
That's difficult because it requires a different mindset, a different way of knowing the subject, the topic. The more you know, the simple you can be. Because you can extract what is unimportant and put in only what it is. And to put it in the context of the project and people on the project.
Why is it bold to pursue clear priorities today?
It's like putting your stake in the ground and saying, this is what I'm going to stick to, and this is what I'm going to focus on. In a world where people are asked to do a lot of different things all the time and multitask and juggle, you're basically going contra and saying, I'm not going to juggle all that noise. I'm going to shut a lot of it down. And quite frankly, that seems contra to what most people are doing.
People take a stand and they know what they stand for and they know what they want. It's always bold, not because it's really bold, like something really courageous and new to see. It's bold because a lot of people are not doing it. And as Jennifer said, people disperse. We all know that multitasking is bad and that it actually does not even exist unless you really count singing under the shower.
Or chewing gum. Yes, right.
Yeah, that kind of. Yeah. So multitasking does not exist. And what people perceive as multitasking is horrific experience for our brain. When you pursue your goals, you're bold, among other things, because you're going to left out a lot of other stuff and a lot of other people. Mm-hmm. And that can be sometimes a double-edged sword. Mm-hmm. So you really need to know what are you doing when you're pursuing clear objectives, clear goals, and priorities. Because it could be painful for you, for me doing that, and it could be painful for others.
I'm going to give a practical example. I practice this a lot, and even I have a lot of conversations. And Jennifer, I know you and I are going to continue to have conversations. You'll get to experience this too, is when I'm sharing an idea or a thought, Eva will go, you know what? Blah, 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 blah. And I can match up blah, yes, blah, no, blah, yes, blah, no, blah, no. I can do that in an instant. When I can do that, I know I'm clear. I know I've got the vision in my head. It may not be all the way out yet, may not be completely written down, but when that yes, no, yes, no, yes, no comes in, the opposite of that is, oh, I need to consider that. Let me write that down and think about it. Oh, that's a really good idea. I didn't even think about that. Oh, no, I totally need to incorporate that. You can feel it in your being. Yes. So that stake in the sand I really liked because I can tell in my responses in conversation, if I'm communicating something and I'm getting all these ideas back, I can go, yep, that fits. Yep, that fits. No, that does not. But if I can't, I'm like, oh, I'm not clear yet. And Eva's heard me say, okay, I got to put this one aside. And I'll be back. And I love that. And those are the types of conversations where I love people's ideas. I love the brainstorming. I love all of that because it tells me if I'm on track or not. It tells me if I'm ready to communicate that and have the expectations around that for my team to get this done the way it needs to get done, when it needs to get done, all that good stuff.
You're right. When you can say yes or no to ideas posed by others, you have conviction in your goals. You believe in it. You drank your own Kool-Aid, whatever cliche you want to use, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think most owners unfortunately lack conviction, maybe due to noise, maybe due to keeping up with the Joneses. I don't even know what it is, but yeah. And it's interesting. I was at a conference years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, and an older owner of a very successful business on the West Coast came up and basically just vented and said, what is wrong with your generation, which now we're in 40s, so we're not the young ones anymore, right? What's wrong? You just can't make a decision to save your lives. It was this comment about lacking conviction, and I don't know where it comes from, but I do see it prevalent. Yeah.
I have to add that pursuing right priorities is not just in the category of being bold. I think that is a necessity to stay focused and to know what is it that we want. This is not everything is logical, and people are not logical. So I'm going to use this to explain, to describe that feeling that people need to have. It's a drive that they need to feel if they want to succeed. There has to be a drive behind it. And maybe before they define their goals, they should better define their drive so they can get to their goals and their priorities in faster or with more quality or less noise or anything else that does not belong to that group. No.
I like drive much better than passion, even.
Yeah, I'm not about passion. I'm not a fan of it.
That's what the common term is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like passion.
No, it's what drives you. It's what drives you to the core.
Yeah.
I was listening to a TED Talk. Mike Rowe, he does Dirty Jobs. He does that TV show.
Oh, yeah.
Right, Dirty Jobs. He did a TED Talk on what he learned about that. And I'll link to this in the show notes. One of the things that came out of it for him was people don't make their work their passion. They bring their passion to their work.
Yeah. Well, sounds...
And then you can be clear. You're not all up in your own. Am I still passionate about this? Am I doing this? Because then it puts us at the center. Nothing we do is with us in the center, except for maybe brushing our teeth and singing in the shower. We are all intertwined. We are all connected. So there's an element of that. Bring our passion to our work. And if that's happening, there is a drive there. I think that's the connection between there that you were talking about.
I'll stick to the drive. I'll stick to that. I mean, you know me, I'm not a big fan of those mushy-mashy emotional passion, goochie-goochie thing.
I just like to hear
I think that's why I'm gravitating to the word drive, actually. Just get in the car and go. Come on.
Yeah, that's...
And why am I getting in the car and going at 80 miles an hour and at 60 miles an hour?
When I think of a drive, what I have in mind is I have a need for speed.
Yes.
That's it, you know? A reference to Top Gun for all the younger generation out there.
Need for speed. Back to the 80s.
Yeah, well...
No, they all
big fan of Tom Cruise, but big fan of speed and jets, so...
Our best quotes are from our generation.
I agree with that.
Yeah, of course. Every generation says that.
Exactly. I'm being selfish here.
I told, people, when you hear me trashing younger generations, please shoot me in the leg.
Exactly.
Please do that.
Yes. You can't. Every generation brings value in so many different ways.
Of course.
And with Adam, we couldn't learn to say yes, no, yes, 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 no, 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 yes. Could we? It's all of the experience that came before us and the ideas that are coming after us.
And combine that.
Brian Tracy said that an average person who develops the habit of setting clear priorities and getting tasks completed quickly will run circles around the genius who talks a lot and makes wonderful plans, yet gets very little done. That's really the crux of this conversation today. I mean, we're starting with defining certain things. We're talking about what we need to eliminate. We're understanding that the journey is different in life than it is in business because of the constraints, that processes and clear goals are really necessary. And how do we get there? And what does pursuit actually mean in this concept of clear priorities? And what does clear mean? And I know there's a lot of things that you can take away from this episode, the clarity piece being incredibly important as one of them. When we model the actions that we expect from our team, if we have clear priorities and we're making decisions and we're bringing things to the team and we're seeking communication in a way that empowers and builds trust between our team members as well as between us and our team members, then we're on the right track. There's clarity. The pursuit of clear priorities has been achieved. And if we can't do it all the time, we sure know what it looks like when we are there. So we can relish and understand what we're doing and how we're doing it so that we can get better and get to that place the next time to create a win, celebrate the win, create the next win, celebrate the next win. This shared meaning allows us to just gauge how clear our priorities are at any point in time. And we can create a space for our employees then to understand what it takes to present an idea to us and work through that process to find out, does it fit with the larger initiatives of the organization? Does it actually add value? And encourage our people to develop their skills and their thoughts around it. Voice of Bold Business is business radio for leaders in business. You will find all the program notes for today's show at voiceofboldbusiness.com/P82. That is voiceofboldbusiness.com/P for program 82. You can also search The Pursuit of Clear Priorities. Subscribe and rate our program. You've listened, you have experienced this, and we want to hear what you think and how we're doing. Listen on your favorite listening platform. Just visit Voice of Bold Business to get that list. We want to deliver this content to you every Tuesday and Friday to your preferred listening platform. Your experiences in business totally define what it means to be a leader today. It is bold to go after solutions, to take action, and to make decisions. Keep up your pursuit of clear priorities.
Subscribe at thevoiceofboldbusiness.com and get more information, program notes, and past episodes. Bold leaders approach each situation and focus on action to achieve a higher level of leadership. Jessica Dewell, your business advocate, is the host of the Voice of Bold Business Radio. Thank you for joining us.